Okay, game 2. In case there's anyone joining on YouTube, for a quick introduction, check out game 1. Or check out the beginning of game 1. Anyway, I'm a League of Legends coach. We're doing this live on Twitch. Never uploaded to YouTube, so it's gonna be a bit awkward introduction. So we're just gonna skip it out. Check out the beginning of game 1 for it. Let's go analyze some League of Legends. G2 GENG game 2. We've seen some adaptations, mainly by GENG banning Draven and G2 banning Vi. Right, so we talked about in game 1 draft, Vi was a bit scary. Not Vi necessarily, but the Vi-Ari combination was a little bit scary. I agree. I think it can be very, very hard to play against these sort of combinations in case they're played well and in case you make a mistake, right? We saw what happened. What happens otherwise. Cassandra, again, it's a flex for GENG. And 80 flex picks are really OP, and Cassandra is really OP. So basically, any top lane champion that you can flex onto mid is really OP. But that's why Gragas is OP, because you can do that, and you can flex in jungle and support. And it facilitates playing hyper carry, which is also really OP. Now to this ban, again by GENG, Draven ban again, this time a Nidalee ban, which is quite interesting, right? Nidalee ban is quite interesting. Peanut hasn't played it that much recently, but it used to be insane on his pick. Because I didn't do this game already. Well, one pick is definitely not insane on his Kha'Zix, okay? I mean, just saying. And yes, I'm an Evelyn main. And yes, I'm entering a bit in solo queue. We don't talk about it. But I had to flex it, okay? I had to flex it. I'm doing this every game today, am I not? Okay, anyway. And then Olaf ban. So what is open now is Xayah, right? Which we could possibly see picked up with Rakan, although I think Xayah and Rakan are a little bit overrated. But that is my opinion. Kennen, which was picked up. There's also Any Gaming, which is a possibility. Otherwise, there's still Jinx, right? There's Jinx Ophelia and Zeri still open. And one thing that GENG does, which I think is very interesting and very, very annoying, and what I think G2 should have done, is pick Tristana in a second. But first, G2 picks up Kennen. Why is Kennen good? Well, Kennen is just a very, very easy one-ball combo teamfight champion. For me, the meta is about two things, okay? Sort of what mid-section archetype we have. Talked about that a lot in game 1, so I'm not going to repeat it right now. So check out that in case you're interested. But basically, what I think the meta is a lot of supportive mid plus carry jungle, or very supportive mid plus sort of carry mid, right? I think that's also a possibility. And then you play this sort of mid section, plus hyper carry bot. And then it's a lot about team fighting. So you hear me talk a lot about setting up side lanes. But the reason why you set up side lanes, at least in game 1, right? We talked a lot about setting up side lanes a little bit. And why it is important. And why GENG had a very, very big advantage because of that. But the reason why you play through side lanes is not necessarily because winning side lanes is a win condition. But because you enable better team fights and better control of mid-section later on. Because someone needs to answer these side lanes, of course. Kennen, pretty decent side lane. And very good at team fighting. So Kennen, when it comes to that, a very, very good champion. But GENG does something that I think is honestly very, very good and very, very disgusting to play, right? Because while I prefer carry jungle, Tristana Maokai is a really disgusting combo. Why is it a really disgusting combo? Well, it's a really disgusting combo because I think Tristana is OP. So Tristana, of course, is a flex pick. Which was picked here into Kennen, right? That I'm gonna spoil because most of you probably watch it seriously anyway. I reckon, because I think most people that will watch this video are gonna be esports aficionados. Maokai good against any sort of engage, so Kennen probably is gonna show engage. So Maokai already smiley face champion. Tristana as a flex pick, good against Kennen, is a flex pick overall, so very, very good. And front and back compositions, like the one you set up with Maokai, where you kite back, right? Maokai very good appealing, is really good with AD carries. Or hyper carries, right? Tristana can do this sort of job. While also being a possible option for mid lane. And possibly for AD carry, as we've seen 6A play, right? Against the Zeri matchup. So what do you do here as G2? Well, you're in a game right now and you don't know where the Tristana is going. So she could be into top lane. And Doran played in the solo queue, right? So that is a possibility. Why are people flirting with me in my Twitch chat? Anyway. I appreciate it. So what the heck do you do here? Right, you can do this thing that G2 actually ends up doing, which is picking jungle plus any, I think, is what they did. Or AD carry any, either one of those. Which is basically securing strong champions, securing strong Unga Bunga teamfight, which I don't think is bad, right? That's something I've rated Golden Guardians very, very highly. For the YouTube frogs, basically, I know I'm only uploading main stage, but if you guys are interested in the play-ins, there's lots of that, of all the games on my Twitch as well, right? But going Unga Bunga teamfight is a very decent choice. It's very easy to play, it is very nice to play, it is a decent option. But they are showing low range, into high range, front to back already, and I think that can be quite scary, right? Because now as Genji, there's one thing I need to do, and that is kite back. I need to kite back and out range. And if I do that, I'm not in a bad position currently. And Maokai also already means I've got a lot more options for support and top lane. I might want to have a bit of extra engage on support, because Maokai is not the best endgame champion. But if I'm very, very flexible, because I already sent it on a low economy jungle, so he can basically just run around a lot, right? And a very, very defensive champion. Same thing with Viola coming in. Only thing like I'm looking at right now is pick a lot of CC, pick a lot of front to back, pick a decent, like maybe a second AD carry, and I think the game might be a bit hard for G2 to play. Any good option into the Tristana in case you actually think she's mid. So Annie doesn't enjoy playing against Tristana, although I think it's fine, but you can never jump in, of course. But yeah, basically what I'd probably do is lock AD carry, because AD carry is already a little bit pinched. And if I pick AD carry here, I can ban out AD carry, right? And then just look into further options. So obviously top lane and mid matchup, although Annie's of course possibly flex, right? So that I can know actually. But because AD carry is in a P role, I think it's a decent option. To just pick mid lane on 3. Or you could just like look something like Thresh, or like any sort of like random support. In case you really want to make sure you get winning mid section, but you've got Maokai. Do you really care? Mixed feelings. I think it depends what your identity as a team is and what you prioritize when it comes to champions. I think Genji's pick on 4 is like a decent option. And interesting that Genji actually doesn't even end up pinching AD carry pool, right? So they end up picking a Felix, they don't ban Jinx, and they do not ban Zeri, which I think is a bit of a mistake. I think you should ban Jinx. Jinx here gives you so much consistent damage and a lot of reset, same thing with Zeri. So I'd really enjoy banning this champion out. Instead, they ban Silas and Rakan, which I think is okay. Rakan ban makes a lot of sense here against G2, because they're very, very brawlery, right? So banning that isn't too bad. And then Krag is in Sion. And now Lissandra coming in. And now like it's a little bit weird, right? Lissandra as a pick is really good, right? Now we go back into a lot of CC, right? That's what we talked about. Front to back it. But now G2's like, what the heck is Tristana top lane? Although they might have already known it, but I really enjoy doing these sort of picks, because how do you deal with them? Because I can bet you BrokenBlade probably played maximum, like 1, maximum 2 games against Tristana as Kennen. And that is not that much fun. And I really hope you don't actually hear the vacuum in the background. And now we've got Jinx fresh, and now we've got Blitzcrank, and now the game is really doomed. Why is the game really doomed? Well, the fresh pick itself isn't bad, because it is a bit of peel for Jinx. It is a good lane for Jinx. So the fresh itself isn't that bad, but it opens you up for Blitzcrank. And Blitzcrank is an OP champion here. Why is he OP? Well, because he's more mid-section control, so that is nice. And he's a lot of CC. He is a lot of CC. And it's a good matchup into Fresh, of course. And Jinx hates playing against Blitzcrank. Jinx hates playing against it. And that is not that much fun, is it? But that is not that much fun. Who do I see favored? I think game 1, the game wasn't as favored for Genji as it is this. Well, I have mixed feelings, honestly. I've got mixed feelings. So I feel like in case teams are even, I think Genji's draft is really insane. I think the draft can be really insane. One thing to give G2 though, and when it comes to draft, is that their draft is very brawlery, very skirmishy, very unga bunga, and I'm usually a pretty big fan of that, especially in low levels. But when it comes to this sort of level, I'm not sure if I enjoy it that much. Feature matchup, Caps against Chovy. Caps getting absolutely obliterated. And now if we look back to the concept of game 1, well, now it's even more isolated against NA. G2 needs to enable their NA. If the game goes long, you play against double hyper carry. They've got sort of winning side lanes. Really good from the back draft. Not that easy to play. Right? Not that easy to play. So now it's even more about enabling NA to play with Viego, to play on the side. And sort of fix bot lane, because Blitzwing is scary champion, right? So what is really important for Genji is to scout where G2 is. Understand what they do. Genji have really good draft prep. Looks like it. I honestly quite enjoyed game 1 draft. Although of course it's counterable. And oh, sorry, I just saw the message. And wait, what was my point anyway? I mean, Genji late game strong. G2 can be strong in case they go ahead, I guess, right? And of course, they've got Reset City with Jinx, with Viego. There's Annie and Cannon with a lot of bursts to possibly secure yourself the resets. It can work out decently well, right? I don't think G2 is ever going to be like completely doomed in the start of this game. So I don't think the draft is bad by G2 necessarily. But I do prefer the Genji side because they also have Blitzcrank. And Blitzcrank is OP. I like how aggressively G2 is playing in level 1 because they just straight up win in case Genji is very greedy with the engage. That's not good by... It wouldn't be good by Genji to engage. I like the scouting of what Yike is going to do. Because this information is very important in case Chovy falls behind. But this would be the best thing to happen for G2. Similar to last game, right? Where Chovy really wants to make sure that he's isolated. So the roam timer here by Mikyx is also very good. Right? Having Mickey on these sort of roaming types of supports facilitates his way of playing even further. Where Braum can't do that. Braum cannot go mid lane right now and threaten the Sandra. Thresh can. And now we're like back to enabling again and how bot lane push actually matters. Right? So of course champions like Thresh might not be as good as roaming as something like Blitzcrank, because Blitzcrank has a very broken hook. But there's one big advantage that Thresh here, especially with Jinx, gives you, and that is bot lane push. And bot lane push usually means one thing, and that is easier roams. Why? Because you can push in, they need to answer, and then you roam. Right? So it's easier to be there first. Caps threatening Chovy's flash, Mickey being there, very good. Why is it very good? Well, because you need to enable your mid, you need to threaten enemy mid. If they don't have flash, well, it's easier to threaten them. And threatening basically just means either you back off and let us get pushed, or we kill you. And that is how it goes. So now, Chovy needs to respect a lot more. And this is very nice for Yike, because now you might be able to gank Chovy, especially on bounce. And now, and that is why Mad Lions, in my opinion, was really good. And of course, we don't talk about the T1 series, right? Now, if you do that on Peanut and possibly the Light, and maybe a Felice, right? Depends on the spot, right? Need to use the resources to help Chovy out. And when do they need to help Chovy out? Well, when the wave is bouncing. And bouncing, of course, for like maybe not as competitively knowledgeable viewers, is when the wave is pushing back, right? So bouncing basically just means you're pushing a wave. Next wave, mostly is going to push back, right? Unless the wave dies before the turret, before the next minions come, and the next minions meet in the middle again, right? But usually it bounces, which is pushing back again. Anyway, the Caps will crash the wave. And then on the bounce, you might look for a gank. If you can look for a gank here, well now Peanut and possibly the Light and possibly Peyz need to use their resources to make sure Chovy is fine. In case mid section is heavily snowballed, well now G2 can basically do whatever they want onto the map, similar to Genji in game 1. And furthermore, well if now Peanut and the Light have to use resources, especially Peanut, In this time, Peanut cannot farm. So in this time, if Peanut doesn't farm, well, now Yike can farm. And that is my point, right? What Bad Lines is really good is basically threatening mid, making sure enemy jungle has to use time to help a mid, and then Elyoya, and here in this case Yike, can farm up. Why is that important? Well, now if you hit level 6 earlier than the enemy jungle, well, guess who's winning the mid section? Guess who can more easily walk into enemy jungle and threaten? Well, the person with level 6, right? So this is how we can try to use the advantage, right? Try to threaten gank, otherwise keep farming up, make sure you have possible gold advantage, which can result in item spike advantages, finishing mythic, you guys know the deal, is very, very good usually, and especially level 6. Viego, but also like Wukong and Vi, which you've seen a lot, hitting level 6 on these champions is very, very important when it comes to threatening enemy mid, and furthermore threatening enemy jungle. So you crash the wave, Caps drop some vision, and now on the bounce, you can look for the gank again. This is such an in by Mikyx. It's a little bit unlucky that you don't knock him into GENG straps because you lose a little bit of damage. But it's just not enough damage. Because the light is level 3. Mikyx is level 2. It just sucks to take this fight like this. It's really bad. Yike is on vision. But the play actually ends up working anyway because this is what I mean, right? Like, the skirmish around mid is really, really good. You trade one for one, but that is entirely okay. That is entirely okay. It sucks a little bit that you lose any flash for that, but the mid is snowballed at least, so that's not that bad. Any problem is that bot lane is just losing. Mikyx getting Giga Chunk. Why is that a bit of a problem? Well, that is a bit of a problem because this one got an easy roam time here. And yeah. Mikyx is even more delayed with this room timer because it needs to sit in base region HP, you know the deal. And if you want to isolate, well, this is time you can use set of vision again. Turns out, Maokai already did, right? So this is what Maokai is really good in, placing saplings, and of course just throwing a control wood because you're low economy, so might as well, right? And then you're in a very, very good position usually, okay? And this is where Scry's Bloom comes in, right? Scry's Bloom very, very good at the night vision again. So if you play against these sort of enabling compositions, taking away the Scry's Bloom, if you can, is a very, very good idea. So I understand why Peanut didn't do it here. Because maybe he doesn't necessarily want to show that he's here. But to control what is this? Okay. Caps control what is this? Because Caps now was senior, and this is important. Jenny didn't know he had a control word. And he placed it instantly when it came back to lane, which is very, very important. Because the reason why G2 still ends up having the Scry's Bloom here is because Peanut thinks he's not on vision. So Peanut walks here thinking he's not on vision. Trying to look for the gank. Just thinks he's unlucky, right? He crashed the wave and now plays control wood, but doesn't want to use it because he doesn't want to show G2 that he was here. But this actually results in G2 having Scry's Bloom later, which Caps can use to possibly scout for some vision. Of course, he actually doesn't end up scouting it, but having information here that they do not have vision is of course very, very useful as well. Ansama dying here, it feels really, really bad. So what actually ends up happening... Oh, just Hextech flash into killing him. I mean, this is really bad by Hansama. This is really, really bad by Hansama. Not that good. Bit of a problem. Anyway, what is the game plan? Still basically the same, right? So of course, you fall a little bit behind in bot, which is not optimal. Genji's also looking for a cheese. But the game plan is the same as before, where G2 really needs to threaten mid. Problem? Well, Peanut can hover. Problem, Peanut can hover. He's very low economy jungle as Maokai, just going tank. Second problem, well, it's not only that Peanut needs to hover, right? But there's other champions that can hover as well. And if Genji wins bot, well, now they might have more roam time towards mid, which can help out Sandra, make it hard for G2's mid jungle. to play the game. And same thing with top lane, right? Tristana can also try to push out a wave and come mid, in case bot lane is really gankable. And this is a bit of a problem. Yeah, he doesn't get the splitting though. Caps tries to take it, Inza pushes the wave. Really good rotation, but Caps to go bot. And then Unsummer to go mid lane here. I think it's a very, very good rotation. Because that way at least you get to catch the wave. You get a decent amount of economy. And now you already have your bot in the mid to possibly try to play the Herald a bit more easily. Yike trying to open top. Looking for a possible catch. Doran just wards it. Doran is just way too smart, man. But this is good. This rotation by G2 is very, very nice. Only problem, of course, it is Aphelios. So most games, he would have red white here. He already used it to get some platings earlier. But normally, this is the angle where Aphelios has red white. And then it might be a bit hard. Yeah, but he's still going to look to burn for purple. He's still going to end up getting a plating. Still going to end up getting a cannon wave, where G2 is going to miss it. And then Chovy just makes sure that G2 doesn't find that big of a play and only a bit of economy, which is pretty nice. And then just try to dive top bot lane again. And this game is really doomed again. But this time not as much for mid lane as before. The Caps, of course, is dying here as well, and he shouldn't have been in bot lane the second time. Right, so first time getting dove, I think like it kind of makes sense. It just going to end up happening as a cross map play, although he could have respected that time as well. But now second time it kind of feels bad. And it also makes sense that he tries to defend bot, because otherwise Aphelios gets a lot of plates. And if you guys know Balsan law, one plate is one kill, right? One plate is basically one kill. I mean, not really. Not at all. But Balsan law says that one plate is one kill. Okay, what can G2 do though? Right, I don't want to be the biggest doomer, what can G2 do? And one thing to keep in mind is they've got very, very good catch potential. Unlike the game before. And they've got Reset City, right? And it doesn't matter how strong the enemy Aphelios is, if you kill him and Vigo's Aphelios afterwards, well, you can sort of try to kill them, because now you're that third Aphelios. Right, this is the advantage you have if you play Vigo. So how can you try to do that, right? You're going for a very, very aggressive play, it doesn't end up working out. I don't want to be Doomer guy, but game 1, I understand we just talked about a lot more concepts than we do now in game 2. But the problem that we have here is that there's honestly not that much to talk about. G2 is very, very far behind. And of course they could look for catches, but how are you going to end up looking for catches? Because your silence are also not that winning, right? So there's two ways to win fights when you're behind, right? And number one is of course catching. And the second thing is men advantage, okay? Men or people advantage, however you want to call it, right? I'm gonna call it men advantage. You could call it people advantage, whatever, right? Doesn't really make a difference. Anyway. Right, so catch is the obvious thing. Men advantage is the second thing, right? Because previously you heard me talk about, okay, well, if they have winning side lanes, well, they can push outside and then rotate it. So it isn't, if you're behind, is it not really hard to get man advantage? And yes, it is, right? Yes, it is. But it is the only way you can really play the game, right? Because if you don't have man advantage, and you're already losing 3 versus 3 because you're behind, then you might as well try in any way, shape, or form to possibly get a 4 versus 3. Of course, okay, right? Catches can always work. So how do you get it? Well, most teams, in case they get midsection control, they're gonna first play through that, okay? So because they have midsection control, they can try to push up mid, into side, into mid, into side, into mid, into side, and there's not really a lot of counterplay you have if you're already far behind. Because they should be able to set a vision, they should be able to contest camps, and then they just fall back onto objectives and then a very decent spot. So what the heck do you do? Well, of course, sort of in the idea of catch, you can try to be early to mid if they come, possibly get a catch, right? But the other way to do it is by trying to open side. So one important thing overall is to just make sure you're there before the enemies, either on mid or on side. Because as we just saw, right, if generally when they're this far ahead, is on the map first, well, now you need to answer their plays, because otherwise they're just going to take your turrets. Right? You need to answer the plays. You can try to look for a turret trade, but if you're going to end up turret trading like multiple times, well, they're just going to take the rest of your base. Right? So you can't really turret trade that much. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to be there first. If you're in mid, can you really do anything? Well, you can maybe do something, right? But it's not going to be that easy. Because they will be able to answer mid, and then of course try to reestablish control. The big thing, and a very important thing, especially against front and back compositions, but they also have good sidelines, right? So that's unlucky. But against front and back compositions, that's one to play is 5, and which can also enable you to catch people, is opening side. So the main thing G2 should try to do at this point is try to open side. Why? Because you might be able to overload side, right? So send multiple people onto side lane, so for example 2 versus 1, to possibly get a catch on side. Or similar to what we talked about in game 1, is, well, if you push outside, first of all, you get more economy, right? If you get economy, this is good, because if you're behind, you need economy, because you need items, because you need to kill the enemy, right? And to kill the enemy, you need items. And now, maybe, when you push outside, they need to answer. What happens if they need to answer? Well, A, we can try to catch them again. B, we can shift onto mid. Why do we want to do that? Well, now someone has to answer top. And maybe mid lane was like a 3 versus 3, right? And maybe they need to answer top lane. Or like, let's even say 4 versus 4, right? And then we have 2 people top, basically, right? 1v1 top lane. Well, if we can push out top lane, because we're just there earlier. Not because we win side lane, because we don't win side lane as G2, right? But we're there earlier. Well, now we can maybe shift onto mid. And now we've got man advantage, so maybe we can try to do something with that. And that might be pushing out another side lane. That might be in a position for a better fight. That might be to look for another catch. Or like to just go towards side again and possibly get mid section control again, right? So that is a possibility. Wait a second, my mouse cable feels a little bit weird. Okay, now that's a bit better again. Sorry. And the other thing is, of course, try to possibly catch them when they connect. The very, very big problem that you have, though, is if GENG is ahead and they reset first. Because now what actually ends up happening is they go for a play, goal base. You answer their play, then you still have to go base. Because, of course, you need to spend your gold because you're behind, right? You need items to kill them. So after they go base, well, you still need to go base, right? So this gives GENG time to re-establish control again. So they go into mid, re-establish control. Push outside, re-establish control. Push out bot, chill in mid, get man advantage, right? So it's like sort of 3 people bot, like Vegas like somewhere around here. The Sana, like Annie still has to catch side lane, Kennen still has to catch side lane. And of course G2 could just send it here and then like try to pray for the best, right? They could, but it's not that easy to rotate either. You could punish them in side lane, which is not really a good thing. If in case they don't die, it's gonna be even a worse play for you. And of course you need to catch silence because you need economy, both in gold and experience. And the problem that G2 just has is if they just don't get onto the objective early or on the map early, well, GENG can just set up, and then it's bad. Or rather, it's not bad, right? But it's just really hard to play. And now we just see what's going to end up happening, right? GENG is very, very far ahead from how bot lane went, how they snowballed it. This time mid lane was a lot better. You get early, like an early kill on Chovy. Got his flash. Could have tried to pressure him a bit more, but you lost bot lane way too hard. Gave them extra economy, and then it's just a little bit too rough to play, sadly. And that's basically what I mean, right? You can try to open side, try to force something here, then maybe get something out of it. But that's basically the only thing you can do, and it's not really a good option, but it's the best thing you have, right? It's the best thing you have, so that's why you try to go for it. Okay. For the rest of the game, like this is what I mean, right? So what do G2 need to do? Well, they need to open side. Pray for a catch. Try to get man advantage on the side, because this will make it easy for you to catch. Because if you're gonna be mid lane, they will just push it in, take your turret, possibly dive you, and then reset. You still need to reset because you also need to spend your gold. You don't have the luxury to stay for too long on the map. And then they just do it again. Right, so this is why G2's opening side. It just turns out, well, if GENG plays it well, and they play it safe, it's gonna be very hard. And the champions they have inside, and it's just Sana and Lissandra, so that's not easy. Still, you have the option of possibly look to go for a catch. Yike played this out of his mind the entire series, considering this is his first international tournament. I think Yike has been playing fantastically well, as we will see in Game 3, where he completely mega smurfed it. And in my opinion, was honestly the best play in the series. I think Yike was actually the best play in the series, which is crazy, because his mid laner griefed it. And Mikyx also didn't have the best play. Game, and playing jungle with losing mid and support is really rough. Playing jungle and still performing with losing mid and losing support is very rough. And this motherfucker is a rookie. That is crazy. That is straight up crazy. I feel like the jungle rookies we have in Yike and also Sheo, I think we're very, very lucky as a EU. We're very, very lucky. It's just a problem that our mid laners suck. No flame to Caps, but Caps has not been performing good. But I like what Yike is doing here. So people on Twitch might be, yeah, Yike is going for solo kill here. But if he goes mid, does he really do anything? If he kills Tristana, at least you might have man advantage on mid lane again. Right, you might be able to win it afterwards. Hopefully. Is it low chance? Well, yes it is, but at least it is a chance. Right, it's basically the meme. So you're saying there's a chance. But it's basically this meme. And that was GG. Alright. I think that was basically it for Game 2 here. Does anyone have any questions about Game 2? Does anyone have any questions about Game 2? Because I still have a little bit of time, but I do not have time to review the third game before I've got judo training. It doesn't seem like there are any questions. So it's a quick review. Game 1 was, I think, very, very much about Caps early griefing lane. I think this game started a lot better, right? With you getting pressure onto mid in the game where you want to enable. The problem is just that it's very easy for GENG to set up the map. It is not that easy for G2 to really get ahead. And the second your bot lane starts losing, this is the problem. Why is that a problem? Well, because you want to use your bot lane push to actually help you set up mid. Maokai Lissandra is very, very safe. So not having a lot of roam timers on Fresh makes the game harder to play. And not being able to use the mid lane push to set up mid, into setting up bot lane again, into setting up objective, makes the game a lot harder, right? So this is sort of what went wrong this game in my opinion. And that is that bot lane just got very, very much hit on. I feel like BB also played good. Right, where in LEC I think BB didn't really perform that well. But he's playing completely fine considering he got a mega counter pick as well. I'm not sure if Tristana's a mega counter pick. But they insta-locked it when they saw Cannon and Doran played it specifically in solo queue. So they must be very confident on this matchup and in this... they must be very confident in this matchup. I'm very big fan of the pick. But yeah, I mean, just Fedefelius. What can I say? Okay? For the YouTube folks, in case you've got any questions, YouTube comments. Otherwise, check out my socials, Twitter, Discord, like everything linked below the YouTube video. Probably, again, first time I'm really uploading stuff to YouTube again, so no idea how I'm gonna do it. In case you're very interested in this sort of analysis, or encouraging sessions in general, check out my Twitch. Gonna upload the reviews for main stage. And in case you're interested for Planes, I reviewed all of the Planes series on Twitch as well. So check out the Twitch video section, I guess. And otherwise, thank you very much for joining the video. It's so weird to talk about YouTube. Anyway, socials below this below the video. Anyway, see you in game 3. See you in game 3. Okay, guys.